Okay, welcome to your Practice Evolution Master Course. This is the second course, and as you know, last course you had homework, you had an assignment, which was to really establish your vision. And we went through core values, we went through a lot of things about producing the culture, and we talked about how important those things are. And I recognized that this was a difficult assignment, and I had a lot of you reaching out to me and asking me questions and some guidance. And what's the difference between a mission statement and a vision statement? And again, just to reiterate this, your mission statement is who you are to your community. Your vision statement is where you want to take those whom you lead. I hope that's clear. So I got permission from Dr. Limbo to actually look at his vision creation, his vision statement. And I want to congratulate Dr. Limbo for doing this because he worked on this all the way late last night and he gave me permission to share it. But here it is. This is what he came up with. We are passionate about helping our community restore health to their lives and live without limitations, acting with integrity, purpose, courage, and quality in all we do. As a team working together to deliver a world-class experience every day, every patient, every time. Individually accountable, yet unified in our actions to manifest this vision into reality, building a thriving, purpose-driven healthcare empire across our two locations. Well done, Dr. Limbo. This is inspiring, right? When you read this would get me out of bed each day. This would pull me to the office. And that's the purpose of the vision statement, is to help you be pulled to the work that you do. If you're waking up in the morning, dreading going into the practice, dreading what's coming at you today, all the problems that you're going to face, something's got to shift. Something's got to shift. And that's why we had to start with this, because the destiny of your future, the place where you're going, has to be determined. We can't end up there by happenstance. And that's what this process, that's what this exercise was all about, was being able to create that. So as we develop our own leadership, you realize that what you focus on is what you will feel. And for an example of this, I was working with a partnership on a coaching call this week. And it was interesting. One of them had pulled the reports and knew the numbers and knew that production and profits were up. And the other partner wasn't. I could tell that he was focused on the problems that had just ransacked him that day. And there was such a different experience between the two. The one was pretty upbeat and pretty excited, and the other one was just exhausted and tired. And the whole conversation, that kind of set the tone. And I want to rephrase that one more time, or repeat that phrase one more time. That which we focus on is what we feel. And isn't that what life is about? Is feeling great, feeling happy, feeling excited, excited to be here. And I want you to know how excited I am to be here on this training with you and to take you on this journey, because it is a journey. And the next piece we're going to talk about is just remind you in that process that your practice evolution is all about where you're going to get to, where you are today, and the roadmap, the blueprint to get your practice where you want it to be. And again, every one of these levels is extraordinary. You don't have to become higher on this staircase. You choose where you exist at the highest, happiest state. And it is all about state. It's about the state that we're in. It's about the state that we're creating for ourselves and the team that we lead. So as you look at this, again, we're making a decision on our destiny. No more living by chance. So let's talk real quick about something that we call reframing. It's cognitively reframing things. And you've heard this, from Stephen R. Covey about paradigm shifts, but I want to tie this back to some of the brain chemistry that we've talked about the amygdala, and we talk about the prefrontal cortex, and we talk about making decisions from those things. And I want to share a story with you back all the way to my junior high days. I still think back to this and can't believe this happened to me, but I was in 8th grade. And I was walking down a busy hallway and, as all 8th graders, still trying to figure out who I was. I was on the football team, I was on the basketball team, I was in band, I was in choir. I had a very motivating mother who made sure that we were involved in a lot of things. But as I was walking down the hallway, it was extremely crowded. And I was right in the main hallway changing classes. And all of a sudden, I got tripped and pushed from the back, and the next thing I knew, my books were spread all over the floor, and I was laying on the ground. And I didn't really get hurt, but I looked up, and everybody is staring at me. And the rush of embarrassment just kind of flooded over me. And at first, I wasn't sure, did I just trip or did I get pushed down? And I looked behind me, and there was a fellow 8th grader who had come up behind me and tripped me and pushed me. And all of a sudden I realized I'm being bullied. Like, I've never been bullied before like this. Now, I grew up with older brothers, so I knew what it was like to be picked on. But this wasn't just any other kid. This was a kid that I knew pretty well. In fact, I got a little bit nervous because this was Mike. And Mike had matured a little quicker than the rest of us, and we all knew that because Mike had a mustache. Remember 8th grade when kids started to shave? I was a long ways away from shaving, so I hadn't really fully developed yet. And in the back of my mind, I knew that Mike could beat me up. I mean, I was an athlete, I was active, but I got scared. And so the amygdala kicks in, right? It's fight or flight time. So not wanting to confront this, not wanting to deal with it, I picked up my books as fast as I could. I got up and I started walking away from Mike. Well, Mike wasn't about to have that. He immediately attacked me again and knocked me down. Well, as you guys know, when the amygdala kicks in, it's fight or flight. So this time I knew fleeing wasn't going to be an option. So I pick myself up. I don't worry about my books this time. I turn and I immediately lunge at Mike. And the next thing you know, we're on the ground. Well, the teachers and the assistant principal immediately were there. They did a good job. They came, they pulled us apart. And I was so baffled. Like, what did I do to make this kid all of a sudden want to pick a fight with me? I mean, I was the nice kid. I couldn't understand why I was being attacked. And so here I was being escorted to the principal's office. And there was one thing that my mother told me growing up that all of us kids, man, just knew that she always said, you better never start a fight at school. If they want to fight, then you invite them to come to your house and fight. And here I was, got in my first fight at school in 8th grade. So I find myself sitting in the guidance counselor's office. Again, just baffled. And all of a sudden it was my turn. I get called into the office, and the guidance counselor says, you okay? How you doing? They're like, Corey, I just want you to know you're not in trouble. I want to share with you a little bit about Mike. Well, I didn't know a lot about Mike. I just knew that he was the kid that was probably most likely to be smoking behind the school, and he was the kid that was really good in shop class. In fact, I was so confused because Mike had helped me in shop class strip down a lawnmower engine and put it back together. Well, the guidance counselor says to me, Corey, Mike doesn't have a healthy environment at home. In fact, he's grown up with a father who drinks a lot and beats him. And he has just grown up in a really rough place and doesn't have a lot of friends. And so he tends to push people away rather than pull them closer to you. And I remember, even at that moment, my little 8th grade brain having the epiphany that Mike wasn't mad at me. He was just hurting inside. And the next thing that the guidance counselor shared with me kind of changed my life. And he said to me, Corey, I don't know if you realize this, but Mike told me he had helped you take apart an engine and put it back together in shop class. Is that right? And that was right, because I had no clue how to take apart an engine and put it back together. And Mike was all over it. He came over, he helped me, like we became buddies. But what I didn't realize is that when the teacher came around to give us our grades, he turned to me and said, Corey, great job. And I said, thanks. And in that moment, Mike, who had done the majority of the work, didn't get the credit. And so all of a sudden, he became angry at me for getting the credit, which is crazy, right? But when I realized that Mike wasn't really mad at me, he was mad at the not getting acknowledged for doing something great, because at home he was being beat. He was always being put down. Can you imagine the different set of eyes that I saw Mike through? No longer was I, flowing with adrenaline, wanting to kill Mike. No longer was I embarrassed. No longer was I angry at Mike. All of a sudden, my heart melted, and I saw Mike with love. I saw Mike as a kid that didn't have the father that I had. He didn't have the healthy environment. It completely shifted the way that I saw Mike. This is what we call cognitive reframing. It's seeing things clearer because we choose to see things for the way they really are. This is a little bit on a lighter note, right? Exercise is a celebration of what you can do, not a punishment for what you ate. When we wake up in the morning, we go into our exercise program, it's exciting. What can I accomplish today? What new levels can I achieve? It's exciting instead of dreading, oh, I got to go to the gym or I got to get up and work out. That's the concept. And when we talk about marketing and sales, this is the part that I want to help you master, is how you see things, but more importantly, what you're creating for people to see in your practice. So here we go. Do you run a health or a dental clinic? What if you were hiring team members to actually come and work at a hospitality center? What if hospitality was your first training with the employees that you're hiring? Instead of seeing that I work at a clinic where procedures are done, we take care of people. And what if, instead of conditions and diagnoses, we actually took care of people's needs? What if, instead of doing new patient exams, we had a new patient experience? And what if, instead of marketing to new patients, we attracted new patients? And what if those new patients didn't have to fill out paperwork and intake forms? What if they got to apply to become our patients? It was a new patient application. You see, this is just simply cognitive reframing. This is simply looking at the same procedures and processes and systems that you're doing, but it's shaping them into a very different way. So we take those things and we begin building your marketing foundation, right? We've talked about vision, because if you show up to a practice with a vision of where I'm going, a clear destiny, we make different decisions. And that's what a leader does. They make the right, best decisions for the vehicle that we're creating. We've established our core values. Well, now our behavior in our practice changes because we all are striving to adhere to these principles of core values. Our culture changes. All of a sudden, there's a feeling of excitement to be in this practice. There's a brand being established that we're proud of, something so proud of we would wear it on a t-shirt. Do you give t-shirts to your family members, to your patients? And then, of course, we've identified our ideal new patient. You see, that's the foundation. And for those of you who have ever hit a golf ball, those of you who have ever learned to throw a punch, those of you who have ever learned to hit a baseball, the power behind that actually comes from your foundation. Your feet are planted, your hips become involved, the traction that you develop on the ground, the grip. And that's where the power comes from when you're actually throwing the punch or you're hitting the golf ball or doing a swing. Your power of your marketing is going to come from this foundation. That's why we had to get this right in the first training. And if you get it right, honestly, everything, like the first course said, falls into place. The next piece we have to get into place is what we call your origin story. Now, Dan Kennedy and many countless others have talked about this. This is nothing new. I just don't know if you've taken the time to truly shape your origin story. This is a story that we tell that begins to attract people to us. Now, I'm a big fan of Superman, and Christopher Reeves will always be Superman to me because that's what I grew up with in my childhood, although I like the new DC guy. But man, I love those Supermans growing up. And every great origin story starts with a charismatic leader. I mean, who doesn't like Clark Kent? I mean, he's kind of goofy on the day, and then he's Superman when he changes. It's incredible, right? And that charismatic leader, what did they struggle with? What was it that they struggled with that was an emotional component? So we take a charismatic leader and we put him in the jungle, right? We put him in a life or death situation. And then what are they fighting against? What is their cause? Superman, all injustice. He's fighting, he's got an enemy, Lex Luthor. And what's interesting is that if Superman didn't have any weaknesses, we wouldn't worry about him. And there's an interesting dynamic that comes into place when there's actually worry. And that's why kryptonite was introduced, because now Superman has a weakness. And anytime that weakness is exposed, we worry for him. We worry for the character. All of a sudden, we're emotionally connected. We're invested emotionally into this experience. And then there's an epiphany. Something we learned, something we came across empowered us to accomplish something that wasn't being accomplished before. And then you discovered your gift, your passion. So this ties back into your vision, because if you're not passionate about your vision and your gifts, you haven't identified what level that you want to create. Because if your gifts truly are being a provider, you should be focused on developing those gifts, not opening up a multi-location brand. But if your gifts and your passion are the multi-location brand, then that's what we focus on, and we drive that, and we attract providers with the passion for the patient treatment experience. That's how it all ties together. And then, of course, it hasn't always been this easy until I figured out. When we tell this story in our marketing, all of a sudden we attract new patients that are attracted to that story. We have got to become masters at telling that story. So part of your assignment is sitting down, and you've got two ways. Some of you like to write, so you can sit down and write this out, or some of you actually like to record. You can just talk into a recording on your iPhone or your Android and just do a voice recording, and over and over and over, tell that story until you've mastered it. Follow the structure and identify your origin story. I don't care how big the brand, you look at how big Walt Disney is, it all goes back to the origin story of Walt and creating Mickey Mouse. And when he went out, and it's pretty awesome, my 8th grader was telling me this last night as we were kind of going over this as a family. And he tells me, yeah, Dad, when Walt Disney was trying to get investors, everybody looked at Mickey Mouse and said, nobody's going to like that. until he finally got the ability to show it into a theater, and people freaked out, and it made the newspapers, and now all of a sudden tons of investors wanted to come in and help Walt out. It's the origin story. It's the struggle. It's what you've learned. It's your epiphanies. It's what you've discovered as your passions. Now, I'm a little embarrassed to throw this picture up here, but I did want to share with you just now an example so that you hear an origin story. And so I'm going to share this with you just real quickly, but this gives you the concept of how you need to develop your origin story. So as you guys know, my business partner, our Dr. Kirk Wars, and myself, Corey Frogley, started Practice Evolution, but I have several partners that actually invested in Blue IQ. But that's not the origin story. That's not exciting. That doesn't get anybody out of their chair. What I want to start with is my why. You see, my mom and dad, my dad was a World War II hero. He came out of World War II and got a master's degree, was going to become a medical doctor, met my mom, they got married, they started having kids, and after having their second child, my mom literally almost died in childbirth. Well, this destroyed her because she actually wanted 12 kids. Don't ask me why 12, but she did. And so being told by her medical doctor, her OB, that she should stop having kids because she was going to be crippled by her mid-20s, just devastated her. It took away her purpose of life. You can imagine the depression that must have set in. Well, it set my mom and dad on a quest to find a way for her to have more children. And my dad joined the FBI to save money. They were bouncing around. This is in the 40s in different cities with the FBI. Well, they ended up in Kansas City. And in Kansas City is the first place that they were introduced to a chiropractor. And again, this is now the early 50s. And so as this chiropractor x-rayed my mom, he actually discovered that at the top bone of her neck was severely rotated. And they were able to trace it back to a childhood injury where my mom ran into a car that was parked in the driveway, that she came running out of a barn. She was playing hide and go seek and didn't see the parked car, and bam, right into the car with her head turned, looking over her shoulder to make sure the monsters weren't chasing her. Well, here her poor little limp body was taken to a hospital, x-rayed, and the emergency room sent her home, told her she was fine. Well, that rotated atlas, as she grew, created a severe distortion in her spine that we now know is called scoliosis. So here she was, this is now an adult with a twisted spine, scoliosis, not able to carry children properly. And it was causing, because of a rotated pelvis, a tremendous amount of problems. Well, after she got treated, her health started improving dramatically. Her back pain started improving. The burning in her feet started going away. And my mom and dad tried having another child. Well, that pregnancy and delivery had 0 complications this time. And because of that experience, my mom turned to my dad and said, "Hey, I don't think you're going to medical school. I think you need to go to chiropractic school." And so, sure enough, my dad went up to Palmer College, enrolled in the late 50s, and ended up graduating from Palmer College in 1961. Because he had his master's degree, he got hired on to teach at the school and eventually became the executive vice president to David Palmer, who was the grandson of the founder of chiropractic. Well, my dad's brother was a dentist. And so there was always this dynamic of doctors in the family. And then the third brother was a businessman. So I had these influences and watched and how the different ones operated it with their families and the money they were making and the culture of their family. And I remember as a young kid, my noticing, because I grew up around a lot of chiropractors, that there were a lot of them that were really doing well that weren't really necessarily that great of chiropractors. And then there were other ones that were great chiropractors, but weren't really doing that well financially. And I was introduced to entrepreneurship at 15. I had my best friend's dad brought me and my best friend together to go buy a house. And we remodeled the house at 15 years old. And I made more money in those 8 months than I even dreamed of making at 15 years old. So I knew a little bit about risk and reward and what money could do to help build something and invest in your money going to work for you. And I remember everybody asking me because my mom kept getting treated by chiropractic, I became the 10th of 10. So my mom didn't make it to 12, but she made it to 10. And I literally wouldn't be here with you today if it wasn't for chiropractic. And so everybody growing up would always ask me, are you going to become a chiropractor? Are you going to become a chiropractor? Because my 6 older brothers, 5 of them had become chiropractors. So it wasn't really a tough decision. I knew I wanted to be, I just didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And I remember making the decision at 15 years old, making the decision, if I'm going to do this, I want to master my craft, but I also want to master the business side of things. I don't want to be a broke, successful broke chiropractor, right? I don't want to be successful with my patients, but broke in my practice. I want to impact more people. And so, sure enough, I graduated, immediately went into business. I got really lucky to go work for a brother who was amazing. And together we went through a lot of business training, and that was the seeds of what would eventually become Blue IQ. So, but what we found is when we created Blue IQ, this tool for tracking and measuring, that still our clients didn't really know what to do with it. They needed training. They needed these principles. And so Practice Evolution was born to be able to bring all the things that we've learned over these years. And after working with thousands of providers, we've brought together a program to give to you that will help you create the vehicle to take you to your destiny. And that is my origin story. So I share that with you so that you can have the same epiphanies, that you can share with your patients, share with your team. You see, every team member you hire needs to hear your origin story and be able to tell it just as well as you tell it. Like, practice it. It needs to be recorded in your voice so they hear it. It impacts them. And they understand. They're now invested. They're emotionally connected with you and what you've created. Because you're going to have different entry points into your practice. And one of the big common things that I see in your clinics is that the main entry point for your practice is an exam. Like, go to any dental or chiropractic or naturopath or acupuncturist website. And when you land on that website, the biggest button on the page is schedule now. Well, what if somebody isn't ready to schedule with you? What if they just want to learn about you? What if they want to hear your origin story? What if they just want to learn more about a condition they're suffering with? And if you're an expert in it, how can they learn more about how you've helped people? Because through that exam, you're just selling your restorative work. Whether that's a spinal program, whether that's, your dental work, whatever it is, it's usually a pretty big ticket item. So we go from an exam to a big ticket item, and that typically happens in 1 to 2, maybe 3 days. It's a very fast process that I think we're missing. This is why your marketing is struggling, because you're driving them through such a fast-paced thing, and there's only a small percentage of the population that you're attracting that's ready for this. And so we see our close rates, our case acceptance that we're measuring not be in a really high position. So what I'm suggesting on your value guide, and you really need to put this together, you need to create this. And on the downloadable worksheet that I sent to you, that you can download from Google, this page has been added. And so you need to come up with like a free guide, something that they can download. We're driving traffic to a landing page, right? A sales funnel. You can use a lot of programs out there. Infusionsoft has them. ClickFunnels has them. If you work with any marketing agency, they're going to help you build these. But this is driving traffic to something for free. They're exchanging an email address for free. Well, you start building an email list, a pool of potential new patients. And if that needs to be a big focus of yours, there needs to be a lot of effort and energy building that list, because then we can then offer them something where they actually now buy something. You see, if we can get a patient buying something from you before they come into your practice, you've increased their chance of them becoming a high dollar paying patient dramatically. So we offer a free supplement if they pay for shipping. Well, this is all going to come back to knowing your numbers in a little bit, but how much does a supplement cost you, or how much does a small product cost you to provide for free? $6, $8, $12. Is that worth what you're going to get back in your ROI from that new patient? So if we can come up with something like that where they just pay for the shipping, so they're putting in their credit card, that money's going into your bank account, $5 for the shipping and handling, and then they get the free supplement. Now we're in business because they've bought something from you, they've engaged. Now the next level, and again, a patient can go from the free supplement right into an exam process. It's possible. But there needs to be follow-up threads. If they're going to buy something from you, then they should be getting an email. How are you doing? Are you out? Maybe we upsell them to a 90-day supply of that supplement or product. But there's a chance now for a free consult, an opportunity to engage with you personally or somebody, a specialist on your team, where they get 20 minutes. Now, typically it's worth giving 20 minutes to help answer questions, to get somebody into an exam process, because now we really have the opportunity to affect them. Now, many of you don't have your membership programs built out. And so going from an exam, offering a membership program along with your restorative programs. But at this point, the reason why we offer a membership program is it actually provides them a discount in the restorative program. You follow that? Like, they're not taking advantage of the membership program yet because they're actually spending a lot of time with you to get the restorative work done. But the membership program allows them, it puts them into the program and it gives them a discount on the restorative work. So you've now got a patient for a long time. Now, once the restorative work is done, now they qualify for your wellness programs. And the membership model now increases your lifetime value of that patient and creates you reoccurring revenue. And that's the golden ticket in your practices that's missing, is reoccurring revenue. And when you build that over a 5-year period, the stress of the constant closing new cases dramatically changes. So this needs to be the value ladder, because if you can become masters at this, the marketing becomes a lot easier. There's multiple entry points into your practice. And we can add value to your wellness programs by accessing, membership-only content, attending membership-only workshops and events, exclusive opportunities that you can release to these that continue to tie them into the practice, right? It's an experience. You're creating experience for your value ladder. So you need to nail your value ladder. Honestly, you can just follow this, but you need to fill it in with the assets and each key piece that ties that together. Now, your marketing to get them into the value ladder, it has to be compelling. I see too much marketing out there that's not compelling. And so, again, the anatomy, and this is from Dan Kennedy, this is looking at the anatomy of your offer, your sales process. And it's made up of 3 key components: your hook, your story, and your offer. So this is how it all ties together. And the hook is something that intrigues. Here's just an example. Does stem cell therapy actually work? Notice it's a question. The hook's anatomy, and we'll go through this in just a second. The story then is the story of the experience of somebody who's been through the process, because again, we want other people selling us. That's your patient testimonials. That's the stories. That's their story. And it's okay to give them an outline of the story that you want them to put on the video. And then, of course, the offer. In this case, it would be a free guide to stem cell therapy. So they can download that. So they're exchanging their email address for knowledge that you're providing for free. And this is now they're engaging in your brand. It's a chance to indoctrinate them. It walks them through the opportunities that your practice or the problems that your practice solves. Well, when we build the hook story offer process, we always start with the offer. You're going to, on each value rung of your ladder, you're going to start with the offer. So for a dentist, here it is. We want to offer teeth whitening. We want to add value. So to do that, we're going to offer whatever it takes to get them truly indoctrinated into your brand. So maybe we charge them at a special rate for an exam and a cleaning and x-rays, and they get the teeth whitening for free. It's a special offer. So that's, you come up with your offer. It's a value of X, and you're giving it away for a lot less. And that's where, again, just in each state, you've got to be aware of what you can give away, that there's not fee splitting, that you're giving away something that's not necessarily billable to an insurance, because even if you don't accept insurance, you can still get in trouble for fee splitting. So we want to be able to give away things that, there's a cost, but there's big value there that we aren't necessarily billable to insurance. And if we're giving that away, then those other things that we can charge for become very attractive. Now, in most states, you can charge less than what your fee schedule is. There's a at time of service discount available. Again, check your state laws to make sure you're compliant with that. But that's the offer. We always start with an offer, and it has to be compelling. Are your offers compelling enough that it is pulling the patient into the practice? This is what I mean by new patient attraction, not new patient marketing. So then we go into the story. We tell an emotional story. My teeth can be a little sensitive, so I never whiten my teeth. I didn't want them to be more sensitive. I was embarrassed of my smile. You feel that? You feel the tension that's created right there? Then I found out about Dr. So-and-so. They were able to whiten my teeth without increasing my teeth sensitivity. I could almost cry. I am so happy with the results. That's the emotional impact that we want. So then we talk about your hook. How do we get people to it? These are Facebook ads. These are email lists. These are just traffic. We've got to get people seeing. We need attention on the offer. So we start with a hook. How to blank without blank. Well, in this case, it's how to whiten your teeth without, and maybe you're not sure, maybe you're not sure what people are looking for. So Google's made this really easy, you guys. All you have to do is go into Google and type in how to whiten your teeth without, and look what comes up. It's going to tell you the top searches in your area of what people are already looking for. How to fix low back pain without. See what comes up. How to repair a knee without, how to get rid of knee pain, whatever you're treating, you simply Google it, and it'll auto-populate for you what people are already Googling. It gives it to you. It almost writes it for you. It makes it really easy. Now, in each of your practices, you'll have a main brand. And these are concepts by StoryBrand that's out there. Campfire does this. It's kind of breaking down your brands into very specific niches. And we actually market the niche, because when we market the brand, like most brands, we do too many things. It's hard to really build this main brand or attract people to it. So think about it if you're a dentist. If you had a CEREC machine, you could make crowns in one day. Well, that sets you apart from other people. And we want marketing, driving, attracting patients specifically for that. If you were doing neuropathy treatments, you would want specifically a brand building a neuropathy specialist, nothing else. We don't want them getting confused when they come to the landing page or your website where it tells about everything that you do. And they start reading about same-day crowns, and then they're talking about your cosmetic dentistry, and then they're talking about teeth whitening, and they get distracted. We really want to direct them through the buying journey. So we have a specific brand, hook, story, offer for crowns. Well, then we come over here, and maybe you do cosmetic dental by design. So we have hook, story, offer, driving people through this process. Then we come over here and we have emergency dental, and we market those services, but very separately, very distinctly. With each brand umbrella, we're coming in here and we're identifying who's my ideal new patient, because it could be different for each target brand. So what am I marketing to them? What is my niche? Where do those people suffering with that condition spend time? Is it more of a digital ad people, or is it more of a print ad people? Is it more of an auditory group, or is it more of a visual group? Where do you want them to see your ads? And then, of course, when are they on their devices or in front of a TV or picking up a newspaper or reading a magazine? And then why is it compelling? We have to have an offer that's compelling, that impacts their why. And we'll go more into that in just a second. This is Dr. Nick Silveri. I got permission from him. He's actually going to be doing a bonus training for us because he's a master at this. And this is understanding, this is just his website, which he's redoing and making it even better. He said he was a little bit embarrassed about this, but I still think it's pretty impressive. Where you see his umbrella brand in the middle, and then you see all of the other things that he offers in his practice. And they drive traffic to it. And so when somebody calls in and says, hey, Springfield Wellness, and they say, oh, I was looking for Fit Yoga, they're like, oh yeah, that's us. And then they now have the conversation about Fit Yoga. So pretty powerful. When you market this way, you can get very specific and your marketing dollars become much more powerful. Now we're going to break down your marketing into two sections. We're going to have external marketing and internal marketing. External marketing, think of anything that you're doing outside of the walls of your practice. Internal marketing is everything that you're doing with your current population base and also can be done within the walls of your practice. So Facebook ads obviously drive sales funnels. Still to this day, Facebook is the biggest bang for your buck when you're talking about driving traffic. It should not be your main source of new patients. But depending on where your practice is at, if you're a young practice, you're going to spend a lot more money on Facebook than a more established practice that has more of a referral network, right? The more established your practice, the stronger your referral network should be. And that's where we want the majority of your new patients coming from, because we now have a group, a tribe selling us. So, but external marketing, this is where we do it. Postcards would be considered external marketing, and believe it or not, postcards still really work. I've seen some pretty amazing things even just recently on driving traffic through postcards. This would be your print, magazines, newspaper. Of course, radio is going to be external. Every one of these, though, should be driving traffic to some sort of a capture mechanism. It should still follow your pattern, hook, story, offer. So where are they going to obtain the offer that your hook and story are promoting? This is community relations, going out into the community, doing workshops, doing public speaking. This is an opportunity to connect with your community. Now, your provider membership networks. We talked about memberships, but we've also, and as you know, I'm a huge fan of referral networks. And I'll tell you, this is done right, and I haven't seen this yet, but this is why I love working with multiple providers, because what people are looking for is kind of a complete healthcare package. What if we could create a membership network with a couple other providers in our area? Because you should be networking with providers in your area. And the nice thing about dental is that it doesn't compete with chiros. Like, you guys complement each other tremendously well, and people really want their oral health and they really want their spinal health. So what if you created a membership package that allowed access to both of you? Then you multiply your marketing dollars, you multiply your impact and influence in the community. And of course, what about primary care? What if there was a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath or an MD that you really connected with that could help drive primary care? If you could create a membership model for a family and track that, and I'm actually working on a way to do that. So stand by for that actually becoming easier, but you still could go out and do it. You could still go out and build that in your community. And the internal marketing aspect, we've got to have our fundamental referral system, whether that's a card sitting on every desk in our practice or whatever it is. We have to be able to have our current patients give us referrals. And so make sure that that program's established and well in place. This is what I call a social share. A social share is as simple as this. You create a video where you're talking to your patients family, and friends. And what you do is you tell your story. And at the end of it, you have a special offer for the friends and family program. Now, you come up with what that offer is. It needs to be compelling. It needs to attract people into your practice, but they're only able to get it through the friends and family program. And the way the friends and family program works is every morning in your morning huddle, one of your fundamental meetings that you're having every day, you're picking 2 patients a day. 2 patients a day that are great patients who are having a phenomenal experience, who are drinking your Kool-Aid, and will help promote you. And one of the team members pulls them aside that day and says, "Hey, Mrs. Smith, you've been an amazing patient and we appreciate you. And could you help us with something?" Now, of course, patients love to help. They love to help. And so we say, we are really trying to get our message out there and help more people in our community. And so Dr. Jones has created a video, just a short 2-minute video, introducing our practice to the community, and has a very special offer for your friends and family. If I sent you the link to this video, would you post it on your social media and share it with your networks? Now, I've never had a patient say no. And in fact, as a bonus to this, I'm going to post in our private Facebook, Your Practice Evolution 6-week course group, or master course group, an example of this for you. But this is so simple, and it's just you speaking from the heart, and it's now leveraging your tribe to introduce you to their communities. It's powerful. That right there should change your marketing all day long. Workshops, you should be offering workshops in the community. Social reputation, and again with Blue IQ, some of you know we're working on a social reputation network. We have some of it built into Blue ID, right? But we're building a complete, fully automated one within Blue IQ. That will be called Blue Reviews, to do your Facebook and social reviews on Google. Of course, posting on Facebook, driving engagement, getting your audience engaging, Instagram posts, special membership offers, flash sales. Too many of you are not taking advantage of a deal of the day that gets people into the doors of your practice to come get the deal. This can be, again, a supplement, a product, a service, but this is an opportunity to get them in the doors so that you can schedule them for future treatment. And of course, giveaways. This is where you announce on Facebook, I'm giving away something on a Facebook Live. This is how people show up on your Facebook Live and engage with you. So giveaways are a great way to engage. And of course, charity events. This should be a core fundamental process of your practice, is to be involved in charity events. Now, moving on to some technical stuff, knowing your numbers. This is Blue IQ, right? You have to know your numbers. And there's a lot of numbers that you need to know. But again, looking at this dashboard very quickly gives us the vital signs of your practice. And one of the things that you need to know, obviously, is your new patient acquisition cost. You've got to master this. You have to know, what is it costing me to get a new patient into your practice? And it's simple. This is why we have QuickBooks Online, to pull in your marketing dollars spent. We divide that by your total new patients, and we get a new patient acquisition cost. So for instance, in this example, we spent in 1 month $6,700. We got 23 new patients at a cost of $294 per patient. Now, is that good? Is that bad? It depends on your ROI of those patients. And so we'll go into that in just a second. Depends on what you're selling, right? Well, what you have to master then is getting your top 5 marketing sources built into your QuickBooks, and also into your patient management software. Referral sources, right? So Facebook ads, Google ads, referrals, maybe specifically a marketing system. You've got to identify where you're spending. Now, if you're only spending money in 3 areas, then keep it down to 3. That's fine. And then you're going to separate metrics. Instead of having a total new patients, notice that on this, you see new patients in the bottom left-hand corner. That is a calculation. That's a formula metric. That's adding up the new patients from Facebook, new patients from internal referrals, new patients referred from other providers, or a specific provider if you're really working on like an attorney or a specialty dentist, or wherever that referral source is coming from. And then of course you might have an other category that just now captures everybody else. That adds them all together for you. That automatically creates the formula of calculating your new patient cost. And here we are. We get our not only our overall new patient acquisition cost, we can easily break it down to new patient acquisition cost per marketing channel. Now, for those of you just new, those of you who are just starting understanding your data, just keep it simple. Just keep it at this level. But those of you who are a little bit more advanced, those of you who are trying to grow, really laser focus into where your marketing dollars are being effective, then I tell you, you have to master this. It takes a little work to set up in the beginning, but then it's done, and it pays you in dividends ridiculously. Now, as we jump into here, then this is understanding your ROI. Whatever you're selling, those patients that you're tracking, and that all depends on the niche that you're bringing in. So if I'm selling a $35 supplement, I can't afford my marketing acquisition cost to be $50. But if I'm selling a $5,000 service or a $10,000 service, I can certainly afford a $1,000 acquisition cost. The way you're going to do this, and currently ChiroTouch is the only one that does this, but the dental platforms are going to have this soon. And this is calculating your collections per referral source. So here we can see that this from Facebook ads has driven $17,700 worth of collections this month. And we know we spent on the Facebook ad $368 this month. Well, when that calculates, that comes out to $48 per dollar. That's a 50-to-1 ratio, guys. That's incredible, right? You would spend that all day long. Now, because we have to factor in overhead here, you have to understand that most people are running between 30 and 50% overhead. If you're pushing over 50% overhead, we really need to talk about operations, which we'll get to in the future workshops. But this is where at 50% margin, you're still 25-to-1. That's outstanding. If it gets below, 10-to-1, 15-to-1, there's probably more effective ways. But this is a really powerful way to see your ROI on your marketing. And it's a great way to communicate to marketing companies that are working with you. You see, when you hire an external marketing company, you have to know the key metrics worth talking about. And these are the key metrics worth talking about. And so that's collective by source divided by ad spend. So there's your formula for this ROI formula. So now let's jump into, if your marketing's working, it's going to drive call volume. And driving call volume can vary a practice. And if you're working on scripting with your front desk, they may get completely stumbled and messed up. So we want to simplify this process. We want to make it really easy. So as an early practice, where you're still, not high volume coming to the front desk, a front desk person can answer phones. They can handle that call volume. But if you're getting busier, you've got to decide at what point do we add a second front desk person so that the phones are getting the attention and the patients in front of us are getting the attention. And then at some point, it is possible you have enough new patients coming in that one front desk is handling all new patients and one front desk is handling all established patients coming in. And we have a third person answering phones away from the front desk. So that all has to do with your growth cycle. If you're a multi-location brand, we have a call center. So there's ways to handle this. But scripting, we've got to address that. What we want to make sure is happening is new patient phone conversion. We're spending all this money to get the phones ring, and what if we're not converting those? So I'll tell you, as a practice owner, if you're a team member listening to this, if we're missing opportunities on the phone, your practice owner is going to be pretty upset. So what we want to identify on the phone call is, what's the referral source? Where are they coming in from? How did they find us? How did they hear about us? What is their immediate level of urgency? Now that's important, because if you're extremely busy, it's okay to say, Would it be okay if I called you back in 5 minutes? Let me get your name and number. It's totally fine to do that, you guys, because it actually shows the patient you're busy. You were very good customer relationship by answering the phone. Remember, we're a customer relationship facility first. And if they're dying, if they're in emergency, you may have to take that call right then and at least handle the immediate, you know, so you're kind of always, what is the amount of time that's going to take me to process this call? And then you can prioritize it with what you have in front of you versus what needs to be done. And this is where you can pull in another team member to help you if they're available. Always have a plan, always in your training, what's first, second, third priorities, and how do we train and dealing with those levels. Well, this is why we brought Blue ID to the table. So those of you who have an automated connection to your patient management system, as you know, Blue ID can connect to your phones. And now we get rid of this concept of every time the phone rings, it's a great day at Super Health Chiropractic. How may I help you? Or it's a smiling day at Dental Sunshine. How may I help you? We get rid of that, right? Now we immediately see who's calling, right? When the phone rings, this pops up in front of everything. And we say, hello, Brian, this is Mary. How may I help you today? And from this, when we click on it, we know who's calling. We know their account balance. We know their first or next or last appointment. We two-way text with a patient. If we can get call volume moving to texting with us, we can handle 5 text messages over a phone call. So that comes in pretty powerful. But here's the other thing that Blue ID does. If it doesn't recognize the phone number in your database, we immediately know it's a potential new patient. Now, it might be a vendor, it might be somebody, calling on a sales process, and we have scripting for that. But if we know it's a potential new patient, we can handle that. And that's important. So that potential new patient shows up, and we can immediately put on the smile and be ready to handle that potential new patient. So the other thing about this is Google numbers are pretty powerful. So if you don't know much about Google numbers, there's so many videos out on the internet that you can Google. But the nice thing about Blue ID is you can add any phone number to the Blue ID system and not gunk up your patient management system, and then label that number. You can apply labels that this is our knee campaign, or this is our crown campaign, or this is our teeth whitening campaign. So when that number rings, you immediately know how to answer the phone with a messaging that matches the marketing. Oh my gosh, you guys, do you get how powerful this is? How cool is that? This is a game changer. Now, those of you with small practices, still struggling to even get the phone ring, you're not going to comprehend how powerful this is. But if you do all the things I've just taught you through this series to do, and you do it properly, and the phone starts ringing, this is the way that you get amazing customer service. So that's the concept here, is connect your Google phone number on the landing page to track where it's actually coming into as far as the actual campaign that you're teaching or you're attracting. So your scripting matches. Now, we're going to go into now the phone scripting. And we're going to go a little long on this training today because there's so much valuable stuff. And if you need to break this training up into a couple experiences and watch the recording, that's okay. But stick with me because this now starts to tie into the sales process, right? We covered the marketing process. We're now coming into tying this into the sales process. And it starts here. We talked about the amygdala, and we talked about creating attention, desire, and tension. And this is where, when the phone is picked up and we identify it's a new patient, here is your new patient concept, right? We don't have to memorize scripts. We have to memorize concepts, and we have to role play these. Part of your culture of hiring your new team members that they accept, if I want to work here, I have to master role playing. It's just part of our culture. That's how we become experts. So here's a script. Well, nice to meet you, Mrs. Smith. I understand you're suffering with knee pain. The good news is that Dr. Smith has amazing success with the patients he or she accepts. However, I know that he or she doesn't accept everyone that applies here to become a patient. Would it be okay if I asked you a few questions to see if you're a good candidate? We're going back to cognitive framing, you guys, because most patients in their mental mind are framing that I'm going to call and interview practices to find out who's the cheapest, who has the best prices, who can get me in the soonest. All of those go away when all of a sudden we use the amygdala to push them back a little bit. So this is using these principles that we've been building on, and this is reframing right from the beginning the new patient experience. It's an experience we're creating. So the next part of this is qualifying questions. How long have you been suffering with that tooth? What have you already tried that didn't work? And then, of course, why do you think the past things that you've done have failed? See, we're walking them down a cognitive epiphany of I've tried other things and it didn't work. I wasted my time and money and it didn't work. Well, the reason why we're framing it this way is because we want them to tie the emotional component to what they've done as it hasn't worked, it hasn't been successful. But we are very careful, and I'll tell you, this is all going to tie together very ethically in this process. And the last thing we're going to tie into here in the qualifying question is, how are you paying for your health care? Because there's going to be insurance questions. You may not accept insurance. You need to understand how to answer and handle and field those questions. Maybe your services that you're providing aren't covered by insurance. We need scripting on how to handle all those. And all of those scripting are actually found in our advanced courses. But right now, you've got to understand the concepts behind all of these. So back to this qualifying statement, this is the key. Once they've answered all of those, we're going to say, we have such high success rates because our doctors only accept cases they know they will have great success with. Now that's true, guys. We're only going to accept cases we know we have great success with. And the next phrase is, if our doctors don't accept your case, they will refer you to one of our trusted network of providers so you get to where you need to go. And that's the magic. We're building trust here, but we're using the push-pull technique. And I'll tell you, when I first understood and learned the scripting a long time ago, it worked. It was powerful. But I was accepting every case. I mean, it's like, yeah, I want them in here. I want to examine them. But the reality is when I finally created the mental mindset and shifted this to truly qualifying the patient and empowering my front desk to truly screen the patient to make sure that they were qualified and you know, it was okay to book up time with you as the provider because you're going to spend time with them. It just became so much more, such higher conversion rates because we are putting this screening process in. You see, if your marketing is attracting and you have compelling offers, you're going to get a lot of people calling. And if you don't have a screening process in place, you're actually going to create a lot of work for yourself and your conversion ratios are going to drop like a rock. So in this process, I will tell you, when I discovered the connection between dental, oral health, and my structural services, it was a game changer. And I discovered this because I found a dentist in my area that was advertising that he was improving posture with fixing people's bite. So I had to find out about that because I was improving people's posture, or I was having common patients tell me about him. And so I went to his practice, discovered what he did. It was absolutely amazing, life-changing, game changer. Worked so well with my work. And I had a patient I had been treating for a decade, and I could not get her spine stable. And so I looked at her bite. I did a TMJ evaluation, and sure enough, she had some major issues. And I don't know why I had never looked there before, because her main condition, her main pain was in her low back and her pelvis. Well, long story short, I referred her over to the dentist. She went through his program, and that was like 6 years ago. And her health has night and day changed. I don't have to treat her for the pain that I was treating her for anymore. She is truly in well care. She truly is in a life-changing place. So this is real. When I say I'm not going to accept you, I'm going to refer you, ethically, I know I can make those decisions because I'm making the best decisions for these patients. So in the exam now, when we actually do qualify the patient coming into the exam, we take them through an awareness scale. We call this the stairway to decision. This awareness scale was developed by L. Ron Hubbard years ago, and there's a huge expanded version of it. I'm going to give you the condensed version, and then I'm going to give you the even more condensed version on this training because you're not ready for the full training until you go through our advanced courses. But at the bottom of an awareness scale is numb. Like you're not even aware that you have a problem. So if you're a dentist and you're examining a patient with no pain and you find something pretty significant, you got to recognize, I've got to walk them up the awareness scale. For patients that, for other doctors are dealing with patients suffering, they're so focused on the pain. They are aware of the physical pain. There's actually a path that we have to walk them up in order for them to make the best decision for their health. So I'm going to skip this level. We're going to go into effect. So a couple levels I would love to talk about. We just don't have the time. But when a patient connects, what can I not do anymore because of this health problem? I can't chew. I can't stand up. I can't work. I can't go home and play with the kids. I don't do my hobbies anymore because of this. You see, this effect, when they start seeing how their health condition is affecting their lives, this is the conversation that we're having with the patients in the consult. It's the consult that's helping them see how much their health problem is affecting their lives. Now, a couple more levels, we'll jump up to this one. This is where a patient, it's not that they're committing to your care. It's that they've come to a mental frame that they will no longer continue to operate at the state that they're in. Remember we talked about state, how you have to elevate your mental state? A patient has to elevate their mental state. They have to get to a place where they will not suffer any longer. They will not let this problem identify them. They will not let this problem stop them from fulfilling their life's mission. And that's demand for improvement. They'll do whatever it takes. So we're going to skip a couple and then help. Help is where they're now ready. They're asking for help. Again, you haven't accepted their case. We've just got them to a point that if we offered them a plan that made sense at any provider, they would accept it because they now want help. They want your treatment plan. Now, we move into the exam. And again, we just don't have enough time to go into all the training that you probably need. But here's the concepts. And if you master these concepts, I promise you, you will see a dramatic improvement in your case acceptance. So the exam, this is the push of the pull, right? This is the amygdala that we're using in a righteous way. We want the patient to feel at the end of the exam, I'm in the right place. They really understand my condition better than any provider I've ever been to. I hope they can help me. I hope that they will accept me as a patient. That's why we start off with a new patient application. That's why we start off with qualifying questions. We have shifted the mindset to we're qualifying them. They're not qualifying us. That's how we shift the cognitive frame. I hope they can help me. Never, ever, ever let one of your team members ever in this process. So, I know that Dr. So-and-so can fix that. Oh, you have neuropathy? We fix that. Don't ever catch your team or you saying that, because that destroys this cognitive reframing. We don't know until they are ready to dedicate the time that it's going to take to fix it and overcome the financial obstacles. So this is where this comes into place. At the close of the exam, here is your script. Now, again, this is concepts. Put it into your own words. But after your diagnostic testing is done, you're going to say, I'm going to review all of your findings. Based upon what I discover, I'm going to prepare for you my diagnosis, where the root cause is coming from, and why I feel we can help you where others have failed. That's a powerful statement. This information is going to be very eye-opening. My goal is not to overwhelm you, but instead give you insight and control back to your life. See, we're giving. These are what we call hot cognitions. We're triggering the synapses. We're triggering dopamine on purpose. right? And then we want to engage the decision maker. Do you see that most people include somebody else in their healthcare decision? Not everybody, but we need to identify if they are, because the last thing we want to do is do a case presentation and have the patient say, okay, well, I'll go home and talk to my significant other. No, 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 no. We want the significant other there from the start. So by framing it this way, we then say, is there anyone in your life that needs to be present with you in order to help you process this information better? Do you see how this isn't salesy at all? This never comes across salesy when you master this. This is inviting. This is framing in a way that builds value. Now, here we are now on that case presentation. This is all about amygdala frames. When you meet the significant other, if they weren't there in the beginning and they're there now, we need to identify what cognitive frame they're coming in with. And they will. You've got to identify this. Every time you interact with somebody, you've got to identify what frame of mind are they in and where do I need to get them to in order for them to make a good decision. So we look at what we call the authority frame. As doctors, we carry the authority frame. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of people with huge egos that will come in that will squash your frame. They don't believe, they believe they know it all. They're the decision makers. So you may need to use some skills to break down their authority frame. And we do this by simply asking them to move, right? Sit here instead of there. Hey, will you stand up so I can move your chair closer? That just disrupts their state. Sitting a little higher than them. I know that sounds a little corny, but if your chair is there's nothing worse than doing a case presentation staring up at a patient. It doesn't work. You can be a little bit higher than them. Again, establishing this authority. Again, this is hot cognition. This is triggering the dopamine release. Ask how much they know about this condition. Like if they know it all, please explain it to me. Share it with me then what you already know so that we can get them trained on that. Tell them why you're the expert. How many cases have you treated? How many years of studying? What certificates or degrees do you have in advance on top of just your doctorate? So this is established. This is how you deal with the authority frame. Now, if they're not coming in with this, they're challenging your authority. You can skip past some of these things. This is the push-pull. We're now pulling this back, and you can say, this is the condition. However, our programs might not be right for you. So this breaks down that authority frame. The prize frame, right? This is where they're qualifying us. Well, if you've done this right through this whole process, what we're trying to not allow happen here is that a patient at the end of your presentation says, well, thank you for sharing this with me. I'm going to go get a second and third opinion, and then I'll be back to let you know if I choose you. That's what we're trying to stop from happening here. This is what we call the prize frame. The prize frame is, here's why I get the best results with my patients. What do you do that's unique compared to other providers that's unique to you? They're not going to get this anywhere else. If you can establish that, then you've taken out this excuse of, I'm going to go get a second opinion. I'll tell you, in 99% of cases when somebody is telling you that, they're just uncomfortable with the price. And then part of the prize frame, because we're very busy practice, I only accept 20 of these cases a month. So it's okay to limit the amount of volume that you take, and especially if you're the expert provider in your practice and you have an associate, this is very true. And then, of course, only those who are serious about their results do I accept into this program. So that's the prize frame. That's how we deal with that. The analyst frame, this is the person that wants more research. Can you give me more research? Well, just simply focus on results. Keep tying it back to my patients have these types of results. The second part, we could dive into the science. However, that would take a lot of time. As you know, research is improving fast and advancing in technology. And luckily, we stay up onto that. That's why I do continuing education. That's why I get my advanced degrees. So the reason why you're here is because you want these results and then go back to the results. That's how you handle the analyst. And then the last one, the time frame. What I'm going to cover is critical, and we have a lot to cover. However, in order to get through it, we need to get through this in the next 20 minutes. The last thing you want to do is get trapped in your rooms for an hour trying to close a patient on care. Don't allow that to happen. Establish the time that you're going to be spending together so that we can process through the information. So let's get started. So the push-pull, your communication in explaining their diagnoses has to be at a third grade level. Stop using so much Latin. Use a third grade level communication. Use as many analogies as possible to help connect their condition if it's complex. But explain the processes that are happening in their body that led to the root cause. See, this is all getting to the root cause, and stories and analogies will help them connect this at a greater level. Use as many models, pictures as needed. So these are using models and pictures, right? Because it's tapping into their different concepts of learning, and that's a big part of it. Ask questions to confirm understanding. Make sure we're getting a full body head nod. Make sure their language and their response, that their body's engaged, that they're sold, that they're connected, that they're into this. If you're not getting that, the chances of them getting to a yes in the sales process is going to be difficult. Now, once you complete the presentation, the diagnosis, where the root cause is coming from, and how by fixing the root cause and changing daily habits that got them here, we're going to share some quick testimonies and stories. So by now hooking them, we're now selling them with a story, right? Let other people sell your results, and then stop talking. This is key. Stop talking. At this point, we want to see how sold the patient is on the program or on the diagnosis, right? Not the program. We haven't even talked about their treatment plan. This is time for you to listen, and what you're listening for is something close to this phrase. So, doc, how do we fix it? If they don't ask that, they're not ready, they're not at the help level of that awareness scale, the stairway to decision. They're not high enough on that to make the decision that needs to be made today. So we sit there and we wait. We wait for them to ask, how do we fix this? They're coming to you. They're asking for your help. And this changes everything. So here's the phrase. Before I provide you my recommendations, I need to know what you're more interested in. Restoring function long-term, or addressing the crisis short-term and dealing with the root cause later. You guys, do you see the power of this? Because if they say, I'm more interested in restoring function, they're already bought in that this is going to take some time and some investment of money. If they're already saying, no, I need to deal with the crisis, I'll deal with the root cause later, they're already telling you that they don't have the time and don't have the money, but it's their decision at this point. And we just respect that and we move forward. I've presented plenty of type 2 case plans and closed every one of them. But when they say one, there's so much more in a mind frame, a mental, cognitive frame of mind to make the decisions that they need to make on restoring their health. So, restoring function. Okay, well, let's go down that path. Before this, I just want to make sure that the reason why we have amazing success with our patients who qualify for our programs is I just want to make sure that up front you understand it's usually one of two things if they don't get the results. One, because they can't invest the finances right now, or they don't have the time. Sorry, the time was first. They don't invest the time right now, or they don't have the financial resources, but time and money, you guys, that's what it always comes back to. But if they're in the right frame of mind, a higher mind frame, they will make the right strategies to fix these problems. And then, of course, we ask them, do you see either one of those being a roadblock to your recovery or to accessing this treatment? Now, they're going to say, it depends what my insurance will cover, or they're going to say, well, it depends on the price. The next response to that is, we're going to go over that with you, and if we can figure out a financial roadmap to making this affordable, is there anything else that would be a roadblock to you accessing this treatment plan? So we're handling all the issues before we even present care. This is the difference between the big ticket players that are getting patients well. Because I'll tell you what, guys, this is what it comes down to. I want to help people. I want to help people get well, but I don't want to help the people that aren't even willing to help themselves. The people that will drive up into your parking lot in a BMW, but they don't have the money for a Crown, or people who drive up in their Mercedes and they don't have money for your headache treatment plan. Come on. People will put their money to where it's important to them. And the process we just put them through changes everything. So, desire, dopamine, the release of the anticipation of the reward. Our program will get you here. That's the whole process. When we fix, heal, repair, you will be able to, and in the consultation, we've identified what their why is. You'll be able to run that marathon again. You'll be able to play with your grandkids again. You'll be able to chew your food again. You'll be able to smile and get your confidence back again. But again, if we oversell it, we do too much of that, it starts to create doubt and fear. So you've got to find that balance that works with the patient. And each patient's a little different, so be very aware of that mentally in your mindset. Now remember, norepinephrine, this is the release in tension or stressed phase. When we pull back is when we create this by phrases like, however, not everyone has the patience or time or money to invest to go through a process like this to get well. Now, again, too much of that can also cause this fight or flight. Too much tension is the fight or flight mechanism. So be very careful in how much of that we release. The perfect balance in the case presentation creates desire, tension, attention. We have their attention and we can close them on their cases. All right, this has been a lot today. I hope you get these concepts because they're powerful, powerful, powerful concepts, and they are game changers. Notice I'm teaching concepts and not specific words that you have to use at a specific scripting. This is connecting your messaging, your marketing, your sales process, and it all has to connect. It all has to feel authentic. Think of that. Your whole process has to be authentic because it's representing your brand. Now, your homework, you have your organizational chart. You'll notice next to the system of marketing, there's a bunch of roles that need to be fulfilled. And on the left, TM, that's team member. That's the person responsible for driving that. Smaller practices, this may be all the same person. Larger practices, this may be you. Or you may have several team members involved in this. You may outsource some of this. But you're going to put the person or initial or company that's running that piece of it. Now, I can't make this perfect for every practice. So it is important that you take the time to add, delete, change anything in here to match your system, okay? If you add or change this, make sure it matches the purpose and make sure it matches the product. And then you understand the KPI of why we measure this. So your homework on both sides of this, for the exam, and this is the sales process and the marketing and sales, you're gonna go through and assign who is the team member responsible to drive this role. And then that's now training. We're ready to train on this. We're taking these concepts and we're training and we're training and we're training. So roles and duties, assign roles, make a list of your priorities to work on. You want to rate your practice on how well you're doing on each of these and get it done. You guys, when you've seen the most growth in your practices, that's because you've taken massive action. You have to take massive action by getting these systems in place. These are 2 of your 5, marketing and sales. I know we call sales, it's your case presentation and case acceptance. We can't help people if we don't know how to get people to a level of desire and commitment to where they're committed to their health as much as you're committed to their health. Why would you work for somebody, right? They're hiring you to work for them to fix their health problem if they're not committed to their health problem. And that's what this training has been all about. Marketing and sales now leads to all the other system deep dives, because no matter where you want to get on the practice evolution scale, the key, the secret is building a pipeline of marketing and sales and strong, stable systems that will support the growth. Remember the guy with the big upper body and the small legs? That's where we're going next week, is to now establish strong systems and processes in the rest of your other three areas. So this is Practice Evolution. I'm Dr. Corey Farley. It's been an honor, privilege to be with you today. You're going to have to listen to this training several times. You're going to want to use it with your team. Whether you're watching this live or you're watching the recording, make sure you digest this and understand this. Some of the things that I've shared with you are literally the most valuable and powerful things that I've learned in my 20-year career, and they are game changers. This is your practice. This is your vision. This is your destiny. Good luck.